What do we want to talk about?
Yeah, good question, huh? I have no idea. Let's see, what do we want to talk about?
I think let's build on what we have been talking about, I guess. So the article that was sent to you.
Oh, yeah.
You as a trans man. Well, how do you want to be? Do you want to be? I don't want to say labeled. How do you? What is? I guess your pronouns. I guess.
My pronouns are he, him.
Yeah.
And I identify as a male,
mm-hmm.
but I'm also very acutely aware, like, I'm a trans guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a trans, like, and there's.
What does that mean to you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess trans guy means to me, like, I wasn't born with a penis. I wasn't born with the traditional biology of what people call a man.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some people who won't call me a man. So there's that bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then for me, it just feels like the outside matches the inside. And just for people who feel inherently like a woman, or for people who feel inherently like a gay male, or a black male, or a Latin, like, there's a part of what makes you you, and there's, I guess, identifiers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I guess, those are my identifiers. I don't even know if that's the right way to put it. I don't know if that's, I don't know if other trans people would find that offensive.
Well, I guess we're not necessarily talking about other trans people, but my question is...
I guess there's language, right? There's language about what we try... There's language in how we're trying to express ourselves, and our thoughts and our emotions and our feelings, and all of that, and how it relates to one's own relationship to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that for what it means to me, it's this journey that I've been going through, I suppose, in my entire life. Being born with female genitalia and being raised and told that certain things go with having a vagina. Dolls
and going to like a Catholic,
and going to a Roman Catholic school.
Yeah.
Being, wearing a uniform, skirts and jumpers and training bras, and playing with Barbie dolls, and being, never wanting to play with Barbie dolls, and only having one Barbie doll. Having a mom who had to tell all their cousins, aunts, and uncles, like, stop buying my kid Barbie. She's not going to play with them.
Yeah.
So for me, it's my journey. Like, being a trans man is the journey of it's my life. It's the journey of my life. It's my story. And there's the coming to terms with, having breasts that don't make me feel like a woman. Like, there was no magical relationship to having my own breasts. Love them on other women, but for me, they always were like foreign objects. And so going through the journey of, like, dealing with that on a mental level.
And you had big breasts.
Oh yeah, they were. You couldn't miss them. They were there. And and when they were gone, I had phantom feelings, like when you lose a digit, there's like that phantom feeling of what it feels like to have them there. Now, no, I guess in a way, like, I can kind of remember the weight of them.
Mm-hmm.
And now, like, the weight's been lifted, because for me, like, the weight of them was very, like, an emotional baggage sort of way. And so, like, that has lifted. Where other women have, like, this revered power in their breasts. Like, that's part of their womanhood.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, they never gave me that sense of, this is my womanhood. There was no relationship like that.
Mm-hmm.
And even to a small sense, my vagina. Like, now I've come to love my vagina. But there was times where I'm just like, wow, you are a useless thing. You bleed. Like, wow, what a gift. Like, ruining your pants, what a gift.
Yeah.
Cramps, what a gift.
Yeah.
Like, I found no special relationship or thought, like, oh my God, that's my childbearing vessel. No, that dock closed. They pumped out all the water and let it out to sea. It's no, thank you. So, like, I guess that's what being a trans man means to me. It's going through that emotional journey of finding myself in this in this vessel, in this physical vessel, in this body,
Are you
with the
happy
parts that
that
it
you
has.
are like closer to who you feel you were meant to be at birth?
Say that again.
Do you feel like you like do you feel like you are now like your most, I guess, authentic self of from I don't know how to you know
Like if there was a soul that had consciousness and came to be,
hmm
yeah.
like the soul that entered your physical form didn't match the physical.
Like they got accidentally put in the wrong body.
hmm
There's the best way to describe that is I feel like for a very long time I was living in two alternate worlds. There was almost like the Matrix, like there's the one world where you have to interact with everybody,
hmm
and then there was the world that was inside of my head, my own make believe of how I thought things should have been,
hmm
or how things should be, or how I would have these repeat interactions if I was a boy, or if people would talk to me as if I was a boy, versus the life I was living out in the real world. It was almost like I was in an avatar, like in a video game, and I would play this video game, and then when I got home, I got to put that video game, that little avatar, away on the little shelf.
Yeah.
I would unzip it, hang it up on the shelf, and then I would lie down. I would finally get to be me, and then every morning I'd have to wake up and then put it all back on again to go out in the that was the best way to describe it. And I don't know, maybe I will make a movie about that and make it be a little cartoon avatar thing. I don't know. But that was the way it felt in my head. Was I was literally putting on
hmm This is
costume every
actually the
day.
premise of the new Matrix movie. Actually,
Oh, interesting.
to be
Well, then I'll
it
definitely
is
have to take
actually
a
like
watch.
it is actually like he's created a video game of the Matrix.
Hmm.
Like literally what you were just saying.
Now I'm really gonna have to watch that.
And there's certain dialogue in there. It's like exactly what you're saying is. That's why I love those movies.
Yeah,
The
there's a difference when you're connecting with your mind and then you're connecting with your body, and then the two of them come together.
well, it's the I think that the red pill, the blue pill. It's like the blue pill represents the Matrix of like it's literally exactly what you were saying. Like it's so funny. That's why I was like I wanted to watch it. I haven't finished watching it, but I wanted to watch a portion of it before we had this like conversation just to kind of see. And it's like it's so funny how everything is kind of like lining up to like what what
yeah,
we're talking about. Because it's society. It's the we may not necessarily be living in this like robot sort of simulation or machine simulation, but what we're the construct that is the West, that is America, that is now kind of a global sort of thing, but each country is a little bit different. But like still the human species, like there's cultural things that we're born into, and it's like all these things that based off of your assigned gender at birth, you're supposed to like conform to these different things. And
yeah,
you know, and then there's those of us that kind of take the red pill and like, no, I don't want like you make a choice, like, or I guess the choice is already made. You have to now like kind of understand why you've made that choice, I guess. And I think we've talked about this like for years now, of just like I think how we why we connect so much is like we took the red pill a long time ago. Well, some people, especially now during this like 2020 decade, which I've been talking about, I don't know why. You're probably like the one person that I talked to so much about. Like, I don't know what intuitively kind of was triggering
all that that's change.
about the 2020 like construct where I was like, there's gonna be massive change. And I felt that like for several years it just kind of like popped up, and when we would have like these conversations, um,
Yeah.
which is now why we were like we need to start recording these things. Ooh, and my red phone. I got it, product red, but that's so funny.
Okay.
But the red phone is kind of like the red pill. I'm gonna have to play with that. But but I think just, we understand each other, and, work kind of connected us, and there's other people that we've connected with that we can have these like conversations with. But there's so many people that for so long would never address like how they're internally feeling, knowing that the disconnection is just, it's easier to stay part of the structure. It's easier to be numb and dumb to the things around you. And then like last night I was explaining that person that just came like approached me out of nowhere and started like rambling whatever they were rambling. And I'm like, you're just another person that has an irrelevant opinion. And I'm like, I don't know what it is about me physically, or just like me taking up space in places that someone that looks like me doesn't really have the opportunities to. And I think about that sometimes of like, I ask myself like, why me? Like I've asked myself that so many different times over my life of just like, why are these things happening? Both good and bad. Like why me? And like, why do I have to like process these things that so many other people, like it would be so much easier to like not paint my nails, to not have the long hair. I mean, I was telling my cousin this earlier. Like, are you just so surprised you haven't seen someone this pretty, like taking up space? That's my like kind of defense mechanism, but it's also like really like why?
Yeah.
I guess my pronouns, I identify as he, him. I was born with a penis. Don't always like it, but most of the time I do. but uh, but I mean, it's just like, why do people have to like project their insecurities onto others more so than we do? Like we just kind of have fun. Like we just want an adventure. Just we could just pick up and like talk about anything, or like pick up like, I need you to like physically come pick me up because shit's real and we need to drive.
And I think it just comes down to like our individual journeys. You experience certain things along the way, and you learn from those things. You learn what feels good, what doesn't feel good. You learn what behaviors feel good and what doesn't feel good. When things are done to you, or you watch when you've done something and how it impacts another person, and you start to see the gravity of your decisions. I think a lot of that starts to shape just who you become as a person, and what then becomes, what that builds your value system, and that builds what you value in others, and you start to see that in other people. You see that in their mannerisms. You see that in how they talk to people. You see that in how they respond to situations. And a lot of us can inherently tell when they're around someone and how they react to being. Their first immediate reaction is, I see someone not like me, I'm going to go, say something to them or get into their face or insert myself into their lives. When you see people do that, you look and you recognize, okay, like maybe that's not the person that I want in my orbit.
Yeah.
If this is how they act around strangers, if this is how they act in these situations, I think as we've gotten older, some people recognize that at a young age. I didn't recognize that at a young age, and it's taken me a lot. It's taken me a long time to find the people that I feel value, like represent my value system, and they're different. Not everyone is in the same inner circle. I feel like I have multiple little inner circles, but it felt. I don't know how. I'm not speaking proper words, but I guess that's how it shook down, right? Like there are just certain people that I do jive with, and there's some people that I don't. And it's not in every single situation. There's people that you really do click with, and it's a matter of, I guess, just how you hang out with them and when you hang out with them. I'm sure people have hung out with me, and in a particular situation, you may not like me very much, and then that's your opinion of me, and you won't circle back around that way. And there are some people that it's just instantaneous. For me, I think it's do I feel safe with you? Do I trust you?
Yeah.
Can I tell you about my inner workings? Can I share my trans status with you and not feel like I'm going to get judgment on the other side, or you're gonna act appropriate. Like maybe, I mean, I'm sure people have their general questions and their general curiosity. That's one thing. It's just then how do they act after that? And that'll kind of gauge like whether or not I want to hang out with you more or not, or do I want to talk to you more about certain topics or not?
Mm-hmm.
Do I feel safe to engage with you in conversation or not?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of us go through that, and we all have different boundaries and we all have different whatnots, and I think ours are just similar.
Mm-hmm.
And we come from the queer community, so we've seen a lot. We have Latin roots, so there's a lot of family dynamic that I think a lot of people, and culturally you see that. You can see culturally people sort of, they operate in tribes, and we all do. Like we have our tribes, our inner circles. Some of those are blood related, and some of those are not blood related.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of how I feel like that's the natural way of us being, right? I mean, I'm sure there's many people who are happy to live the solo solitude life, but we don't live on this planet. We're not in the apocalypse. This isn't Legend. I Am Legend. We aren't the last man standing. Like right now, there's still. I was literally just about to light some Palo Santo also. Right here. In fact, I'll light mine while you light yours. But there's just like we live on this planet with however a billion more people, and we don't live in vacuums, and we have. We impact one another. Our decisions and our value systems impact other people's values and systems and whatnot. And there's just the multitude and the range of being human. It's just really, I think that's part of all of it. I think it shapes how we walk in the world, and then who we walk with in this world.
You bring up a few really good points there. One is like family and like that structure. I think we're both blessed to come from families that may not necessarily understand fully who we are, but have always kind of cultivated and encouraged like be who you are,
Yeah.
And I think what I've loved about watching your transition is how up front and center your parents and your family have been. Which it's not an easy thing for anyone to kind of, at first, maybe as a parent, but your parents are just so there. And same thing for me. Like I've had, when I came out to my mom in high school, like I'm like sobbing and crying, and I'm like, she's like, what's going on? Like what happened? Like did someone hurt you? And whatever. I'm like, no, I'm gay. And I'm just like sobbing into the into the into the pillow. Yeah, into the pillow, like literally crying. And she sits down and she just like, I just remember her like putting her like hand on me, or like she's like, get up. She's like, sit up. And her tone was just so different. And she's like, I've always known. Like I know. It's not. She's like, mom, a mother always knows. And I was like, oh, is it because you found my porn links? And I like lied and said those weren't mine. She was like, no. She's like, I just, she's like, I've always told you could be whoever you want. And yeah, there's over the years, she still makes comments, but I mean, she calls me Queenie. She, my mom. She's a rad. I mean, she took me to Pride, San Francisco Pride, when I had a girlfriend. When I was living in this like small town growing up, like she knew, and we had such a good time. Like that, we had just her and I just went, and it was like the first time like taking Bart, and I was like coming out of this small town. I just remember like my eyes just being so like drained of like, and like feeling like, where am I, like so out of place. But I think that was like one of the first moments where she like began to pull me out of it, because I feel like she saw what I was trying to do in high school, of just like I was beginning to like fall into that trap of like, okay, I'm gonna have to do this. Like I know I'm attracted to men. I hadn't really had any experiences with men, but I had been not fully sexually active at an early age, but stimulated and did things experimenting throughout my adolescence, like I think a lot of people do, that people don't really talk about, but your body is just kind of there. And And that's why I think it's so important for people to have these conversations earlier with earlier in life, just within themselves and then with their families, and but like appropriate conversations where you can have like you can talk openly about why your body's doing these things or not feeling connected to the body parts that you have, or um, and so I just remember that being my coming out moment. And from there it's just been like it was such a freeing sort of moment for me to be like, okay, I can kind of explore this more, and but then to be like a young Hispanic gay male in a time where like gay culture is so predominantly like white masculine men. So that's where I kind of like fall into this like weird thing now where it's like I'm not I'm not a white guy, and yeah, like I'm gay, and I'm taking up spaces in these places, and I think sometimes that just really throws a lot of people off, and it's like it's taken me. I'm 35 now, so it's like taking me this amount of time to kind of get comfortable. Where I know some people it's taken even longer to kind of come to terms with that. But I feel like we have a good support system within our family, and shared with you. And I'm not going to go into specifics with names or people, but over my over my life, there's been people that I've connected with that their families weren't supportive and really threatened to like disown them and really like held money over them and the structure of the family business or whatever it is it could be all sorts of different things. And I just really feel for those people because I think what happens is that's where like so much anger kind of comes from people, is like they're repressed and then they are forced to live a life that they don't really want to live, but they have to. And so then sometimes when I find myself around those people and I feel that energy and they look at me like, like how dare you like flaunt your queerness or your, and then to throw a little bit of pigment and some fabulous hair, like it just really like they're just like fuck you, like I fucking hate you, like I hate that you're this person, like secretly I'm attracted to you, but I can't let anybody know that.
Yeah.
Or I want what you have, and it just angers me that you have it. Um, yeah, those are some of the things that kind of like pop into my head, especially here. I think moving the West Coast and East Coast is so different, like culturally, because even DC, it's still part of really kind of part of the South, and so there's this like southernness that's kind of baked into the district, and so many people really kind of resent California, and I think for many reasons. I think one of the things that has always interested me about being in San Francisco is how it became like this, the gay mecca. It really became like the place that those that were disowned from the 60s and 70s, really flocked to San Francisco. And then fast forward when HIV was really one of the first big epidemics still around that affects me every day, is, then that fear that came about in the 80s. Like you had free love and people were like, that was California. That was Berkeley. That's where we're from. It's where our families, kind of grew up. And so we kind of don't realize like how fortunate we are to have been around that sort of culture. And I guess being here, so many people are just like, no. And I think there's some residual to like people's family, like maybe men, like their family members that did choose to become gay and did flock to the West Coast and maybe, or New York, and did, contract HIV and died. Like so many, people died because of this, um, for, for, for whatever reason. And luckily, there's medication, and that's where I definitely choose to believe in the science of medication. I mean, with the science of medication, we're both able to live our lives fully
Yeah.
and healthily and really be connected to who we are. But the matrix and the societal structure that has been so ingrained in people's heads for so long of the fear of being gay, and then everything that's been portrayed on television, and it's always the gay person that is like some sort of like pervert or some sort of psychopath or crazy person, or that's been the gist of what we've seen for so long. um, but now so much of that has changed, and that's a whole nother conversation of like, is it okay to like expose children to homosexuality or transness at a young age? And I feel like that's a conversation for me that I have with myself, where I'm like, I think it's up to the parents. I feel like what you allow your young person, your young human to consume, like that's your responsibility. Um, but I feel like if I were able to see some of the things that I see now of like positive family structures, like Modern Family, that's a ridiculous example, but still just like that's fucking hilarious, like that, like that structure, that whole like structure is just so ridiculously funny and like and wholesome in a lot of ways, as opposed to like having the angry masculine dad, you know, forcing their son to be this hyper masculine guy when underneath it all, that's not really who they are. But so many men are forced into this like cultural thing, and it's I don't want to say I feel bad, because it's just like I think it's a projection from me, but I send light towards those people that and that's why I feel like every day I walk out of this door, I prepare myself, like I know I'm a target. I know I don't necessarily fit into the structure. And there was just this young guy that I read in Chicago that was, I think, shot recently, and it just kind of like, that was an article that I had woken up to that yesterday, or was that today? And so just as I walk around, with my headphones on, I'm just like constantly aware of my surroundings, because you hear about people getting beat up, and but I refuse to allow that to like stop me from living. I mean, I made peace with that a long time ago. And for me, the way I carry myself is I hold respect for everyone, regardless if they have opposing viewpoints for me, towards me, or my people that I care about and I love. Like, I will still respect them as a human, because I just do. It's just a choice. I feel like if I cultivate and hold like hatred or anger or any of that darkness, it's consuming, and then I don't get to live the life I want to live, and I don't get the opportunities that I get by being like in that frequency.
Yeah. 100%. That, I'm not gonna call it a monologue, but the like what you just shared, that whole, and I think that is, we do have a lot of similarities in just how we think and how we connect, and there's, again, going back to the experiences, and there's certain things that I don't, like, I won't be able to understand because I won't experience them, but I can listen to you, and best I can say is get it, right? Like, I'm not necessarily walking out of any particular spaces and thinking like I need to protect myself in some certain way. And I don't know if that's just being a white guy now, or even before being a butch lesbian. Like, I never had the fear that I was going to get snatched up and taken advantage of. I guess I never felt desirable in that way. And not to say that that was an immediate defense mechanism, or like I feel like there's twofold. There's one, I'm not ever routinely stopped, frisked, asked to step out of line. No one looks at me with, I wonder what that person's up to.
I'm one of the usual suspects.
Vibes, right? Like, they don't look at me with those kind of vibes. They generally think, like, that guy's got some money, he's going to buy something, he's not just browsing, or, he's not up to no good. Like, there's never that, I don't have that feeling or that sense when I walk into a place. Like, that's not running in the back of my mind, that I've looked at as someone that they would have to second guess. And then there's also this piece of, like, no one's looking for me regardless, in a positive way or a negative way. Like, no one's looking at me like I'm in a desirable. Like, no one's going to give me a second look, and I mean that in both ways. Like, no one's going to give me a second look because I come off as a threat or in that way, and I also don't come off as someone that, like, oh, who's that? You piqued my interest. Like, I've never felt a target in that way either. No one was going to pick me up, put me in a sex trafficking ring. Like, that was just never my thought of myself either. And that could be a lack of confidence thing. That could be like the not feeling sexy. That could come from a whole host of things. And that's independent of being loved so much by my family. Like, I'm surrounded by love. I am, in a way, to, like, dream case scenarios of coming to our truth and telling all of the people who surround us, like, having nothing but unconditional love and support. I should be overly confident, quite frankly. And I'm a Leo. I should be, like, way out there. And
but you are. You are, but you aren't. You are, but you aren't.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I get a little bashful when I realize.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I am and I am not. Like, and there's a piece of me that's like, yeah, damn it, I am right here. Like, take a look at me. And then there's like there's the other side of the coin of, like, fuck, people are looking at me, go hide, because for a long time I lived in my head.
Yeah.
Not realizing people could see me. I think that's another thing that I'm starting to, at 40, I don't want to say pay attention to, but I'm now paying stock at. Like, for a really long time I did live in my head. And people knew that I was somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
They could tell I'm not in that conversation, and that I've checked out and I've now gone
into la la,
my own little world. Yeah. And then I'll come back like no one noticed I was gone.
Yeah. We talked about this when you were here visiting. And I definitely see it. See the change, the positive change of, like, no, we naturally have that, like, carefree la thing. I think that we both kind of have in general, but I think before it would come more frequently, or be like you would be somewhere else and it would be masked as something kind of goofy.
Mm-hmm.
Like not like. Yeah.
And, like, I'm sure moments pass, and, like, as the more we hang out together, it becomes more apparent when it happens. I mean, sometimes now I'm just lost in a thought.
Yeah.
Now I don't feel like now I feel like I have a lot less, like, I don't want to say disassociation. I do sometimes. I feel like when I talk about this, I just sound like a crazy person. But I do just feel like a lot of the self-reflection and the trying to understand why I felt so different from everything else that was out there and presented to me. Like, there's really only so many options, and none of them seem to fit for me. Nothing seemed to fit. Like, that's my reality. So I had to go make up my own. So I went and lived in that world. And now that I do feel like I've brought that together, like, my world in my head is now my new avatar out there in the world. Now that those have now come together, the moments of disassociation or floating off into space, I'm sure they're still there, but they're not the same that they used to be. It happens less frequently. And now it's more of a dissection of an experience, or the thought of a future experience. And I think we all go there. Like, as human beings, we all go off into space every once in a while. the to just like problem solve for ourselves. But I think before it showed up for me as like an actual true disassociation of like I don't want to be in this particular dimension, this particular physical reality. I'm gonna go be in this one over here. I'm gonna go live in this truth.
Mm.
And now that,
But you were still physically in a reality, but you would go somewhere else just to kind of
yeah,
yeah.
or like my parents, like when people are talking about an experience that I have zero to offer, like where I feel like I have nothing to offer, like I have no idea what they're talking about, or I have, people talk about being in like these really big long term relationships. I don't feel like I have much to talk about because I haven't been in one.
Yeah.
So instead of being a part of that conversation, I disappear.
Yeah.
I'm there, sure, smiling and nodding, but I'm somewhere else for sure because I've got nothing to contribute to that conversation. Unless they want to start talking about like romantic fears or whatever it is, like dating as a trans person. Not, that's not exactly always a topic of conversation. Or it's more like, why are you single?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't even know how to answer that. I've just been single for so long, bitch, that now I'm just single. Like it's an act. It takes like a super act. For me, it takes like this super intentionality to flirt with people, and to try to even spark a relationship like that. Like it seems like a lot of work. It's not something that feels like it comes natural to me. And I think a lot of that comes from not like from always being so, I guess, disassociated with everyone else, like not letting people into my inner circle. And I want to say in a big way, like I've conditioned myself and my environment, like I've set it up that way. Now I've got to break down certain walls, and I think I'm still dismantling some of that. But I'm ready for a relationship. Like I want to be in a relationship, especially now that I know myself more, and I know my likes and my dislikes, and now I know what I like in my relationships now. And I'm definitely more open to it. So I'm wondering if maybe the universal law of attraction will bring that around now that I'm not closed off and I'm not resistant and I'm not trying to push people away. In that regard,
I feel that.
Yeah, it's just.
I definitely feel that.
Pieces. Yeah, I was even talking to my therapist. Like, I'm trying to actively flirt with people, and that feels super weird.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if I'm doing it right.
I don't know. Does anyone? I mean, some people I feel like they got it on lock.
Yeah, some people are just naturally. I don't want to call them naturally flirtatious, but I think for some people they just have that gift of being able to attract somebody. I don't know what it is. Maybe their aura, their personality, all of it.
Yeah. For me, that's this, and choosing to be single for a while, because I guess my side of that is I continuously attract people towards me, but it's not that I want them near me. And I feel like that's constantly like, I guess that's kind of always been my thing of just like people have intentionally like gone out of their way to just like pull me out of my introvertedness, or like physically touch me, and I'm like, I don't want you touching me. Like, that's not okay. And I'm at peace with the two relationships that I did have, and I think me having to put down Lexi, which she was like a child, and she had been with me for on and off for 15 years, but it was such a closing of that chapter of my life, which really, it was a great time that I was in that relationship with that person. But the things and I choose to view it that way at this point, because I learned so much. I learned so much about myself, and I learned so much of my own intuition and just like really holding on to my spirit and not allowing people to like just constantly chirp negativity into my ear, like make me doubt who I am as a person and my capabilities. And it's so difficult when you have a partner that you're intimate with and you have these like really great moments with people, but then you add, the sex into it and you add the physical thing into it. But then when someone's like slowly just etching away your soul, um, for me, I just really needed to kind of like take time for myself, you know. And so I think I've had, I feel like I've created more like friendship relationships, and there isn't any sexual thing with my friends. It's, but the love is different, and it's there, and it's like I'll go out of my way to do the things that a friend like that I want to do, and it's the people I want to spend time with, and it doesn't always have to you don't always have to be in a relationship like in a but to actually have that again and have someone take space in my mind, in my heart, and in my bed in a way that is like, oh, I actually want you to stay over. It's like those sorts of things. I'm not there yet, and I think I've just thrown myself into work for so long, and then the move to DC, I was like, no, I don't want to get into a relationship, but like I spend a lot of alone time. Like I go to the bar by myself. I live by my, I love my me time because I'm so like on at work most of the time. But now I'm like, I guess I want to be more open to the possibility of it. Like I still like we talk about this all the time, but I'm still just kind of like, oh, is this light switch gonna turn back on and I'm gonna start acting weird, or is this person gonna be really great at first and then they're gonna show a side of themselves that, but I guess can't we shouldn't live in fear of that. But I was telling someone just the other day, I was like, I don't even know how to date. I've never dated. Like, and people are like, what, really? And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, like I've never, like I've gone on like dates here and there, but I've never like dated multiple people like I just don't like I don't know what that is.
Like when people are like, I'm dating.
Yeah, I'm like, well, what is that? What's that like? I'm like, I take myself, I guess I go to dinner, like, and I guess that's what so many people like. Wait, you do that by yourself? I'm like, yeah, um, yeah, I do. I do. Like,
It's not a rare event. It's an often event.
yeah, no, yeah, I moved here by myself without really knowing anybody, and going into my third year being here, it's like I've met some really awesome people. Still haven't really dated. Um, yeah, like like at all. I just don't
And
like.
sometimes I wonder. I'm like, God, is there something wrong with me?
Yeah.
Am I a different kind of sexual? Like, how many sexuals can I be? Bisexual, transsexual. Like,
Yeah.
is there more sexuals? Am I pansexual? Am I demisexual? I'm just add them to the fucking list.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's the lists upon lists. That's why I was like, no shade, but I'm like, how many definitions can people have? But
yeah, and I think it goes back to like we all do life in a particular way, and there's like I think for a long time there was this. I'm probably still unpacking this as well, but like I don't want to say there's been a shame in being alone, but
yeah,
it's almost felt like I've had to justify or even explain to myself, like, dude, why have you been single for this long? Why are you perpetually single? Like, what is it about you not you? Like, I'm talking about me in the third person.
Yeah.
Like, what is it about not connecting with people on that specific level? Yeah, there's just getting comfortable with having been single for this long, and then having being in relationships every once in a while. It's like, no, I could do this. It just hasn't worked out long term. I just haven't found my long term person in that way. Yeah. Like, I also haven't been super excited about the folks that I've attracted into my orbit. And then there's a piece of me like, did I give, like, am Am I being too picky? Am I not giving things a chance? Am I just, I don't know, there's like a whole slew of stuff that I wonder and I ask myself. And then there's also this like beauty and peace of just having spent the last couple of years getting to know myself. Like I felt like dating myself was more important.
Absolutely. Cheers to that.
Yeah. I want to go open up a bottle of wine.
So you should.
As I should. I gotta go downstairs though.